Are you eager to engage with your team even at a distance? Do you need tips for promoting engagement during and beyond the pandemic? If you answered yes, you're in the right place and at the right time. I'll share 5 steps to promote engagement.
Good morning, Connie, and welcome. Thank you for joining us, and a special thank you for turning on your webcam. Same thing to you, Carol Ann. We really love when we can see the faces of our colleagues, our peers, and celebrate with you. So let's start with, what is it? When I think engagement, I think of engagement in marriage. I never really got engaged to my husband. On the 5th date, I said, I'm not working Wednesday. Do you want to get married? And we did. It was my idea. He had just come across the border from Canada, and my thought was, let's grab the good one before somebody else does. That's how we got engaged. We got a real engagement ring, but it was on our 25th anniversary, so it wasn't quite what it perhaps should have been. But engagement is the mental and emotional connection that staff feels toward places of work. You know when you are engaged in the workplace. You know when you're valued and appreciated. You know when you're all on the same page. What do you need to feel connected? You need the right information. You need transparency. You need resources and equipment, and think about what we're facing right now and how significant that is. And you also need great leadership, transformational leadership. That's part of the process. So think about, when you think engagement, what brings you joy? What makes you happy? Who are the people with whom you like to circulate? Who are the people with whom you like to surround yourselves? What makes you happy, not just in your home, where engagement is important, especially when we're in confined quarters and all need to share that same space. But what about at work? What kinds of people do you like to work with? What kinds of people make you happy? I ask you to think about that, because it's really all about our relationships at home and at work, and what we do and what we say, and how we interact with others. All of this is incredibly important as we set the standard and raise the bar for what engagement really is. It's part of who we are, and it is so vital to our success each and every day. What about family? When you're engaging with family, you perhaps are thinking, well, possible transmission, safety, distancing, supplies, groceries. Is it homeschooling, or is it school at home? There are 2 totally different aspects of this. Homeschooling is what you've read about your entire lives. There are so many kids who are homeschooled. I believe that it was a homeschooled child last year who won the National Spelling Bee, which, by the way, this year was delayed. But that child was homeschooled. School at home is something that all of you are doing, that many of us are doing, that people within your peer groups are doing, perhaps your workmates are doing. And so it has totally shifted the bar and really shifted the paradigm in terms of how that's working and how we can engage on that level. We're not all fortunate enough to have enough rooms in our home where everyone can segregate and be by themselves in their own space, even if school is only 1 or 2 hours a day. My daughter told me yesterday on the Mother's Day call that school this week for her adopted child is 2 hours per week, 2 days per week. And for that, they're paying for a private school. That's a very hefty tuition for a child with lots and lots of developmental and attention disorder challenges, who's only going to be in school for a total of a couple of hours. That's a real compromise, and that's a real challenge for the family. So what about your health? Your schedule, your responsibility, frustration levels are at an all-time high. Productivity is not where it's supposed to be. It is from a standpoint of the number of people for whom we can provide care and the number of hours in which we can do that, only because we're overtaxed. What about the outcomes? Are they the health outcomes for us that we need and deserve? Are we anxious? Are we lonely? Are we depressed? Are we frustrated? Are we unhappy with what we're able to produce? And how do we feel about that? How does that make us feel? Mind, body, and spirit. When we look at productivity, we are clearly physically drained, perhaps emotionally drained at the same time more than ever before. And we wonder why. We all know why, don't we? What could it be? We understand that as well. It's a serious issue and a real concern. But we also know that the more you face, the more you overcome. Let's face it, we're nurses. We have overcome a number of challenges. The more you face, the more you overcome. But what? This is a different time in history, isn't it? We have so many more patients than beds. We have insufficient testing. I'm told that there's supposed to be a special meeting from the Rose Garden today on the whole testing process. Some of those tests are not valid, some of them don't work, and they're not readily available. Fear of the unknown and what the outcomes will be for us, given the amount of risk that we're taking each and every day in our own lives, in our own work settings. So we are overwhelmed with stress. We now know that stress is a $300 billion industry. That's a lot of money put into the concept of stress. As a matter of fact, the American Psychological Association estimates that about 70% of physician office visits or provider office visits are related to stress-induced symptoms. The stressors in our environment are pressing us beyond what we could ever imagine, and they are creating problems. They're contributing to that bottom line, but they're also contributing to our own outcomes. So think about it. Which of these is stress for you? Are you anxious? Really worried about transmission, about the economy, about your health? Is it social, physical distancing mandates? Or is it that someone you know has tested positive? I want you to think a little bit about the economy, because we all know that even with our cyclical nursing shortages, nurses can always, I would say 90% of the time, be employable. There are jobs available for nurses, perhaps not in the setting that you want, but you can get a job. This morning's Washington Post, there was a huge article about the fact that the economy is going to drop down with unemployment at about a 20% rate, which is an all-time high. What's interesting is that historically, when there have been challenges with the economy and with jobs, people most impacted have been men. Right now, the people most impacted have been women. And they're including in those numbers nurses and teachers. Very interesting article in this morning's Washington Post. Think about it. Think about what is stressful for you. So close your eyes for a minute and think about what you see. How do you feel? How do you engage during times of stress and crisis? Are you at home alone? Is someone sharing your space? Is something sharing your space, like a very beloved pet? Perhaps multiple pets? Is another family living with you? How do you engage during times of stress and crisis? I thought it was interesting what they've done in some small towns in Canada. They permitted, starting yesterday, families to commingle. So if you had a sister or a brother and they had children and your kids were the same ages, you could actually convene at one person's house and mix with one another, speak to one another. Your kids would have other kids with whom to play. The challenge is, what if you have 3 sisters or 2 brothers and you have to pick and choose because 2 families, more than 2 families, cannot come to the equation? When you start to think about it, some of this selective reopening disengages us and makes it even more difficult to move forward. You need a voice. You need that voice to define your own expectations, to assess and manage your own workload. You need to identify your concerns, and if you have no voice, you can't do so. You have to be able to talk about with your peers and with your family members how the crisis has impacted engagement, how that distancing has kept us apart. Because can you engage and still be distant? The answer, of course, is yes, but it's the tools that you use and how you do it that allows you to be successful. You need to be able to continue to recognize good performance on a regular basis. That's meaningful recognition to those who are going above and beyond what's expected of them and really doing a great job. We need to bring professional development back into the conversation. It's basically been put on hold throughout the entire pandemic. Hospitals and health systems that previously did not have money allocated for development have pretty much put that on hold because they need everyone within the workforce to physically be there doing what is needed. Development needs to re-enter the conversation because it's through that process that we all grow and that we develop bigger circles of influence, bigger connections with our thought leaders, and we're able to really feel that engagement. We need to think about the new normal. Will we ever return to what was normal before? Do we even remember what that looked like or what it felt like? And we need to speak from a single voice. Nursing's voice is critical. These are the kinds of critical conversations that we must have in order to understand our true role and to be appreciated for the value that we bring to the workforce. So how does one engage when you're distancing? You can still interact. If you're in a healthcare setting where you're seeing other care providers every single day, or in a classroom setting where periodically you might be seeing people, perhaps on a regular basis, seeing people engaged in your classrooms, you can interact. You can do what Candy and I have done. You can ask, please turn on your webcam. Please participate in the poll. Please let us know where you're from. Please let us see you. So virtual engagement has truly facilitated that process for all of us. We can be responsive. We can be responsive to and attentive to the needs of our peers in the healthcare setting, knowing that they are facing the same things that you and I are facing each and every day. They too want to be successful, that they want to be disease-free. They want to minimize their own risk, that they want to be safe, but they want to engage with their patients. This is a time in which we can engage, but we cannot stroke that brow or hold that hand unless it's with gloves, or basically be in the same space at the same time, where we used to feel truly engaged and now we do feel somewhat distant and very separated. This is a very different time and place for each of us. We need to think seriously about what we can do to remain engaged in the process. In times of crisis, I recommend prioritizing. I always had a to-do list, and perhaps like you, the to-do list was incredibly long. It was so long that at the end of the day, there were things I couldn't possibly do. So I would take maybe 30 or 40 things from that very long to-do list and move them over for the next day. I finally realized that that is not the way the process works. The way the process works is you convert that to-do list to a must-do list. And on the must-do list, you put only 3 things. And you put only 3 things because your goal is to be able, at the end of the day, to cross off those 3 things that you have done and feel really great about it, to feel as if you have truly engaged with what you were doing, that it was so important that you got it done. Then the next day, you create another must-do list. Again, you move over 3 things. Try not to do more than that because it's almost impossible. But at the top of that list, in my mind, ought to be engagement. Engage with others, avoid risk, take time for myself. Once you have that on your list, you can then add other things that you clearly must do. So not just in times of crisis, every day you should prioritize what it is you're going to get done and how you're going to make that happen. It's more difficult now than it ever was before. How do you engage with yourself? Because that's part of the process. Remember what I said should be number 1. First is self-care, responsibility for you. What if 3 or 4 times a day you blocked off 15 minutes that was only for you? Shut that cell phone down, you turned off your devices, closed your eyes for a moment, and you only engaged with yourself. What about healing environments and the opportunity to perhaps take a short nap? To read and interpret the signals of others? To smile once in a while, to really enjoy. Some of the shows that are on TV are all doom and gloom. Some of them are pretty engaging. I'm looking forward this week to watching The King and I with Yul Brynner. That was always a very engaging performance and one that makes you feel good. It makes you feel well. So you can push away distracting thoughts. Again, you can relax for 20 minutes or work up to it. If you really feel as if you cannot sit down and relax for 20 minutes at a stretch, start with 5 and work your way up to it. But I caution you to set an alarm for 25 minutes so that you don't engage for so long that you become dysfunctional. And then gently return to the present by stretching first, really allowing yourself to get into that space and do what needs to be done. Engagement is about staff and patients. It's about visitors and families. Think about how those family members feel when they cannot visit their loved ones. Think about the individuals in labor and delivery who really don't have the number of people around them in that reception area waiting to hear the good news. Think about those people who are visiting their loved ones through windows in nursing homes and continuing care retirement centers who can wave through the window or wave from the doorstep, but who really cannot physically engage. Think about how you're managing that level yourself. Think about a culture of appreciation for who you are and what you bring to the workplace, because engagement is in fact the foundation of a highly successful organization. It's what makes us whole, and it's what makes us our very best. When you're engaging, be transparent. Allow access with video chats and with FaceTime and with any other tool that you can. And please, please, please take a diet from the news. Think about the solo activities that you can engage in, like classes and YouTube. Apparently, for Mother's Day, I'm getting a surprise that didn't quite arrive yesterday, but it's something that will allow me to learn from all kinds of people in all kinds of spaces for the next year. It even includes some cooking lessons. Maybe somebody was trying to give me a message. I'm not quite sure. What are the 5 steps to promote engagement? Active listening, meaningful recognition, collaboration, celebrating our successes, and knowing that all things are not possible. When I worked in the new independent states of the former Soviet Union and in Central and Eastern Europe, they asked me to please be patient. Their comment to me was, "Sharon, in our country, please know that all things are possible, but not all things are probable." Big difference between possible and probable. So while I might have wanted something to happen, like a grand opening or a redesign of a hospital unit, it was not going to be possible until the given number of signatures were on the piece of paper allowing that to happen. And rather than just sending something to someone electronically for an Adobe electronic signature and knowing that it's been done, our process at that time involved going out to visit each person whose signature we needed. In order to go out to visit them, you could only schedule 2 visits a day, not because of distancing, but because when you got there, you had to have a shot of vodka. You had to have a meal. You had to have snacks. That was how every meeting started. And once you had your vodka, and you had that activity going, and you had the flow and the engagement in the conversation, then and only then do things become possible or probable. So again, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining our Nurses Week series. Today is day 6. Tomorrow is the final day in our series, and it will have lots of excitement attached to it, including the afternoon birthday party for Florence Nightingale. We're really glad that you've joined us this week. I'm going to stop the share now and open it up to each of you so that you can, in fact, because you're all unmuted, participate with us. Tell us what you learned today, how you feel about Nurses Week and how it's happening within your organization, and what you're enjoying the most about this series.
Well, I really appreciate the information that you put together for us, and I'm looking forward to Florence's birthday party. She is my hero and has been my whole nursing career.
Great. I think that's true of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it goes back to Nursing History 101. Just starts with that, and without her, where would we all be? So many lessons learned from her, haven't we?
Yes, we have. And when you read her book, Notes on Nursing, there's still a lot of it is very relevant.
Oh, I would agree with you. I was presented with that book by Lippincott when I published my first IB book for them. Mm-hmm. They gave me a copy of that book, and it was personally signed by J. Lippincott. It should have been signed by Florence, but I think she was not quite available.
Right.
Well, speaking of Florence, I would encourage everybody to bring a question, because we're going to have a Q&A, and I forgot to mention that.
Great. That's exciting. Thank you, Candy. Okay. Kim, did you have something you wanted to share with us today? Or?
Nope.
Okay, Maria?
Thank you it's such an inspiration to just go back to history and see how the relevance and the application of today's age, in the millennial age. And it's so amazing how in the past still contributes to what is nursing today. And so I really appreciate it. And actually, even during pinning ceremony for students, we actually look at the values of Florence Nightingale to be part of that awarding ceremony.
That's exciting. Thank you for sharing that. Sue?
I think I've talked enough with this. I'm also looking forward to tomorrow. It will be exciting. And I have enjoyed your entire series. I am sharing this with a few people that I am mentoring. I'm getting terrific feedback. Sharon, you are awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Sue. Carol Ann, how are you today?
I was really in a very reflective mood today, listening to everything. We have a great challenge, not only as the pandemic is winding down, but it's the aftermath. You know, we have people that are going to be in fatigue. We have chronic fatigue. We are going to have PTSD. We are going to. So it's you know, many people at least on the outside are you know, saying, oh, we get back to normal. Well, we have a new normal. And I think that is what we are establishing and what you are, you know, kind of leading up to, and how all those changes are going to come together. And once again, nurses are right there to lead the challenge and lead the process of change.
I think you're exactly right, because we, number one, don't even remember what normal was, and we still have no idea what we are about to face. I think you're especially right about the PTSD and the emotional impact and the toll that will take on our fellow colleagues. You know, how will that impact them? What will that do to nursing's numbers? What will that do to our ability to provide care? So you're exactly right. These are real challenging times, and it's something none of us, no matter how long we've been in nursing, have really ever seen before. So I want to thank all of you for sharing with us today, for opening up your mics and your faces and your places, everything else that you've been able to do, and allow us to learn from you at the same time working with you to truly engage in terms of Nurses Week and our future. I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you, and please bring a friend to tomorrow's program. Thank you, and enjoy your day.
Think about the new or next normal and what you just experienced. Now, define your expectations and move forward, fully engaged. Better yet, let me present to your team in person for your next event. Let's engage.